How's it going, everybody? It's Tactard Ted. It is Tuesday, first day of November, 2022. The year is rolling on. We're looking very much at the end of the year, staring us in the face. 60 days out, roughly. How's everybody doing today? Well, it's been a couple of days since you've heard from me. I've actually been busy living life and kind of sitting back, watching things maneuver and move about. Definitely, I think if nobody can argue that the momentum of the Ukrainian offensive has petered out. It no longer exists, and the Russians have taken the initiative. The Russians are making moves in directions of Ugledar, Bakhmut, Krasny Liman, and they're making moves in the northern area above Krasny Liman that they lost during the offensive of the last 60 days. That area above Kharkov is fairly uninhabited. It's really amazing to me that we make such a big deal about the Ukrainians capturing farmland and no sizable towns, other than, I guess, Krasny Liman was probably about the largest city that they captured, or town, if you want to call it that. It's interesting when you watch how the media handles everything. In fact, we recently saw where the Department of Homeland Security was going to make it somehow illegal to put out several types of information they didn't approve of. They would call it disinformation, part of the blue check fact-checking shit. It all depends on who's doing the fact-checking. And a lot of times, I don't know if some of you folks are interested or not, or aware, but a lot of times fact-checking, when something is debunked, it's on the terms of punctuation. It's on specific wording that you didn't use English correctly. Usually a lot of these fact-checking things that I've ran into in the past have had nothing to do with the general point. But because it was fact-checked and people aren't very aware of what the fact-checking is, they believe it. They take 100% full faith and credit that the fact-check is correct, and the posting is not, when oftentimes it's actually the reverse. The fact-checking is nitpicking of grammar, nitpicking of use of language, but is not standing against what is being the main thrust of the idea. Apparently this is continuing to go on. It seems to be a recurring problem. And hopefully, we were hoping that Elon Musk, when he took over Twitter, is going to get rid of a lot of that. But then I see people like Scott Ritter, who was reinstated onto Twitter, posted his thoughts on Bucha, mainly that the Ukrainians did it, which is a idea that I subscribe to. And he was immediately banned. Immediately banned. So I'm not sure that we're ever going to straighten out this blue check nonsense. I think really we have to hold these people accountable. We can't give them a break. What they have been doing to try to silence you, me, other people for the last 3-4 years has just been ridiculous, and maybe even longer. But the last 4 or 5 years, actually since Trump started running for president, it has just took a new level of absurdity. And we can't let these folks get away with this. We have to hold them accountable. We can't let them continue to do the same shit again and again and again. It's just not feasible. It's just not workable. So, don't listen. Well, you can listen to it. I'm not going to tell you can't listen to the mainstream media. But when the mainstream media starts talking about this or that with Ukraine, just notice that they ignore the fact that the Russians are on the move. And they don't really report the great demise of the Ukrainian energy and infrastructure. Kiev is in the dark. I would say roughly 45% of their electrical grid is now trashed. And the Russians are very judicious in how they do this. They hit something, They wait for the repairs to be started and they hit it again. They don't allow these systems to come back up. And while they're attacking the systems that are being repaired, they're identifying new features of the electrical grid to take out. And it isn't going to be too long until Ukraine is pretty much looking like North Korea. And it's interesting, a couple months ago, somebody, or actually it was in September, somebody posted a picture of Ukraine, and it already looked dark with the exception of a few cities. I mean, the eastern part, the DPR and LNR, were still pretty well lit up. Kiev was still pretty well lit up, and Odessa was still lit up. Zaporozhye was half lit up. Now those lights are going out, and it's getting ready for winter. The autumn rains are in full swing. The roads are turning to muck and mud. And the next major thing that's going to happen is the rains are going to stop and the freeze is going to start. And once the ground is sufficiently frozen, it's game time. And I think we're going to find out that the Russians have actually mobilized more troops than they have said. Why would you tell the Russians, why would the Russians tell the Ukrainians in the world, hey, we've mobilized 300,000? Why would you tell them that? You're telling them so they'll underestimate. The word is they have mobilized a lot more folks than that. A lot more folks have volunteered. 70,000 plus people just up and volunteered. I venture to say when this thing kicks off, we're going to be looking at 500,000 to 750,000 strong army on the Russian side in Ukraine. And it's going to collapse rapidly. I mean, I could be wrong. We were all wrong at the beginning. Everybody thought Ukraine wouldn't last a week, including me, including the chair of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. Hell, everybody thought it. And we didn't count on the Russians going in light-handed, that the Russians were not going to attack all this infrastructure, that they were not going to come in with overwhelming, overbearing force, destroy everything in their path, and then occupy. That isn't what happened. They've since had to rethink because of the stiff resistance of the Ukrainian army due to the fact of NATO-supplied weapons. That are going to get more Ukrainians killed. You're giving them the means to resist. The final outcome in this has never been in doubt. Anybody who has been in doubt of whether Russia was going to stomp the daylights out of Ukraine, you're not being honest with yourself or you're not educated. One of the two. I can't help you. I can't help you understand. If you really honestly believed that Captain Ukrainian in freaking Kiev was going to win the world and overthrow the Russians and eventually march on Moscow, you are extremely detached from reality. You have no sense of well-being. And I think our leadership in this country is detached from a lot of reality. There are a few folks who do know what's going on in the government, probably more than just a few, but they're afraid to tell the truth because it doesn't match what the leaders want to hear. This reminds me of the sort of shit of Hitler in his bunker and generals not wanting to tell him the truth because they knew he would throw a fit, that he did not want to hear it. And we have a lot of that going on in our government. We have people that will change things just simply for political expediency. They don't want to be the bearer of bad news and have it negatively affect their career, their future. To be honest, we need a lot more people who are willing to stand up and tell us an uncomfortable truth more than a pretty lie. And these pretty lies are what are going to get us in trouble. So anyhow, folks, that's my update for the first day of November 2022. And I hope you guys have a good week. Probably I'm going to try to get something out tomorrow, and I'll try to get something out early Thursday morning, and then I am off to play Army. I'm doing a World War I recreation battle. in the East Coast, on the East Coast of the United States. So I'll be taking part in that. I won't be around my cell phone. In fact, if there's any interest, if you guys want to see what a World War I reenactment looks like, I might post up some video, let you guys have a look. I'm part of the French line in World War I. I actually do a Russian unit, oddly enough. I do the Legion Russe, which is a Imperial Russian Army unit that were basically given to the French because the French manpower were low. The Tsar basically traded these guys for weapons. They needed weapons on the Eastern Front. They couldn't produce rifles quickly enough. So they sent 2 battalions of troops all the way from Russia across the sea, down the eastern coast of Russia. They had a port of call somewhere in Indochina, and then on to France. And they were part of the French line. Even after the revolution of 1917, a lot of those guys still served in the French army. One out of the 2 battalions, 1 battalion was dissolved. The 1st battalion, I believe, remained. And a lot of interesting characters served with that unit until the end of the war. So we'll be doing a late war tactical, biplanes, all sorts of stuff. If you guys want to see what that looks like, give me a holler. I might post some shorts early next week. I try not to have my cell phone out doing a lot of video, but some of the stuff is just too cool not to shoot video of. So anyhow, folks, you take care, and I will try to squawk at you tomorrow.